Can you imagine a more stereotypical French scene than some little dusty village somewhere in the Dordogne? You've got some old men playing a game of boule in the dusty village square, or sharing laughs and jeers over a baguette and a bottle of Bordeaux. And in the corner, just behind them, will be some dilapidated, yet ever so reliable, old Citroen van. Well, we're not quite in the Dordogne, I have to say, and there isn't a bottle of Vin Rouge to be seen, or a baguette for that matter. But I do have a Citroen van. It isn't dilapidated though, it's the very latest electric one from the French firm. So, welcome to another van review, welcome to the Citroen e-Berlingo, and as always, bienvenue to AutoEV. Now, before we crack on with this week's review of the Citroen e-Berlingo, it is of course that time when I ask you to become a subscriber to the AutoEV channel, making sure you give the videos a bit of a thumbs up and you press the bell button down below so you're notified of when our next video goes live. If you've been a supporter of us so far, thank you ever so much. And if you're not and you may be new to us, please consider becoming one because, well, you know, every little bit helps. So let's talk about Citroen vans, small Citroen vans, because, well, they've been a bit of a success story. Back in the 1950s, Citroen launched a commercial version of the 2CV, and between the 1950s and the 1970s, it was a huge success, amassing over 1.5 million sales worldwide, and nowadays becoming very collectible. That was replaced by a van called the Acadianne, which was based on the Diane passenger car, and that ran up until the 1980s when it was replaced by the C15, based on the Visa. Between 1984 and 2005, the C15 was in production, only to be replaced by the first generation of Berlingo. And it's now here in its third generation. In fact, so successful has the Berlingo been, it has now overtaken sales of that original 2CV van, amassing sales worldwide of well over 1.5 million units. It is partnered with its PSA, well, Stellantis group partner, so it is shared amongst the other manufacturers, which is Peugeot with the partner and Vauxhall with the combo. Even Toyota have got in on the act as well, doing their version, the Pro Ace City. But it's the Berlingo that I'm interested in, and the reason for that is I want to know if the original still has that kind of Gallic charm of its predecessors, and will it fit into your business, or is it a bit of a, well, nil pois? Well, let's stick it through an AutoEV van review and find out. Now, obviously, there are some similarities between the commercial Berlingo and the passenger one that we featured on the channel before, but they have their own distinct style as well. And of all the kind of platform sharing vans that the Berlingo has spun off from it, I think it's the Citroen that takes the looks prize in my book. I love this kind of swept back headlight arrangement here, with the inner one has this kind of chrome ring that flows into the double chevrons and sits above this nice big practical black plastic bumper there. Now, the Berlingo comes in two lengths, either the standard 4.4 metre M model or this, the slightly longer 4.75 metre XL variant. You can also have it as a crew bus in this XL variant, where you've got room for 3 passengers behind the front cabin and then a load bay, but we'll come on to that when we talk about options and things later. Down the side, I think it's a great looking van. I love these kind of concave bits above each kind of wheel arch, and then this kind of slightly upswept window line, which then drops into this rear sliding door. Now, depending obviously on what length you go for, will depend whether or not you get 1 door or 2 door as standard. This is the XL, so this has got 2 doors. You can also option it with a thing called a worksite pack, which gives it such things as grip assistance, some Michelin mud and snow tyres, or mud and slush tyres, slightly raised ride height, some hill descent control, believe it or not, and some extra underbody protection, obviously, if you're making frequent deliveries to, I don't know, to building sites or off places off the beaten track. So that could be something worth considering. Standard 16-inch steel wheels with the wheel trims on this particular variant. Again, alloys are available depending on the model you go for, but again, we'll go on to all that later. And then, of course, as I say, your sliding door, there's 2 on this particular car, some nice big practical side cladding there to stop your panel work getting damaged. Good looking van, I think. And then, of course, at the back, you've got your nice big double doors that kind of split in a 60-40 arrangement, the bigger door being on the near side. Just a little E badge there to tell you you've gone electric, but a nice prominent double chevron there wearing its Citroen badge of pride. Nice low set plastic bumper just to mirror off at the front as well, and depending obviously on options as well, you've got reversing sensors in this one and also a little reversing camera there. So how practical is the Berlingo? Well, very is the answer to that, the short answer. These doors, your 60 kind of 40 split asymmetric doors, open up to 90 degrees at first, but then just by flicking this little handle here, you take them out to 180 degrees, which is fantastic if you need to get right up to like a loading bay area as well. Now in terms of dimensions, bearing in mind what we've got here is the XL one. The only dimension that changes if you go for the shorter M1 is the load bay length. So all other dimensions I'm about to give you are going to be the same in terms of load height and width. Okay, so what numbers do we have for you? Well, maximum loading width is 1,242 millimeters between the doors, and the maximum load height is 1,137 millimeters. Inside the van, that height goes up to 1,243 millimeters, and the maximum width between the sides is 1,550 millimeters, which then drops to 1,230 millimeters between the wheel arches. But as you can see, it still fits a Euro pallet in. In fact, in this one, you can get 2 Euro pallets in the back. That's phenomenal for a small compact van. That's absolutely fantastic. Now, your load bay length is 2,167 millimeters in this XL model. If you drop to the M model, the standard length van, it's 1,817 millimeters. Your total carrying volume in there, again in the XL model, is 3.8 cubic meters. That will drop to 3.3 cubic meters for the slightly shorter van. Now, as I say, this van's optioned up with the twin sliding doors. Normally it's just the one door you get on the near side. It's also got the option of this very durable black plastic lining, which is, well, looks great, I think, and is just going to stand the test of time, and no matter what you kind of throw at it. You also get 6 lashing points down, so 3 down either side as well, and there's 2 up on the standard steel bulkhead and another 2 on the sides there. There's also, rather handily, a load bay indicator in terms of weight. It will tell you if the van is overloaded. Now, carrying capacity in terms of weight on the shorter van is 800 kilos. On this longer one, it's 751 kilos. If you go for the crew bus, this sort of area here is that rear passenger compartment, and then a slightly shorter load bay at the back. But you can extend the actual load bay by up to 1 meter by dropping down this hatch here on the bulkhead and then flipping down the front passenger seat, which I'll show you on the interior. So if you've got extra bits, long bits of piping or scaffolding work or timber, I mean, I'm not sure there's anything this van really couldn't handle, if I'm honest with you, in terms of its carrying capacity. It's phenomenal. Now, if you've dropped that rear hatch and you want to utilise this extra metre load length, then all you do is just pull on the tab in the back of the passenger seat and it flips forward and down, and there you are, an extra metre's length. And it's also, the seat back is metal, so it's not going to rip the fabric of the seat. You also get quite a handy bag which you can clip up round here so that it actually fills this space. So if it's a dirty piece of timber or something, it's keeping your interior nice and clean. Really practical, really well thought out, but it gets even better when we move into the front cabin. Now, if you thought the Berlingo's forte was what's behind you, wait till you see this, because this interior is one of the best van interiors I think you can get, in all honesty. Not only is it supremely comfortable, because it also utilises Citroen's Advanced Comfort Programme, which is a programme that focuses on Supreme's comfort, not sportiness. So the seats, they've got cushioning just in the right place. There's enough support down the side. There's enough cushioning in the squab and the backrest. And that's before you get onto the ride comfort. We talk about chassis dynamics, which also features in that programme. But the driving position in the Berlingo is perfect. I got this nice, albeit optional, leather 3-spoke steering wheel here, which is just right height. It's obviously adjustable as well. You know, you can adjust it in for reach, you can adjust it for rake, You get the perfect driving position. The seat will adjust for height as well. And all the controls fall nice and easily to hand. You've got this, depending on the spec that you go for, and we'll go on to trim levels and stuff a little bit later, you've got this 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system, which is up here. This particular van has a few options on it. This one's optioned up with the Citroen connected navigation, but it still comes with standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So obviously you can go onto Waze or Google Maps or whatever and use them. There are some shortcut buttons around the side just to get you into sort of, you know, settings for the van, DAB radio, which is standard, Bluetooth as well. You've got air conditioning controls down here, which again, they're not climate as standard, it's just standard air conditioning, but it works. It's really nice. Heated door mirrors on this particular van, as well as power fold. That makes it nice and handy. Trying to get through some nice narrow gaps. And I've also got a heads-up display in this particular van too. That's all well and good. That's lovely, and it's all nice talking about that. But it's the practicality, it's the storage in here which really stands it head and shoulders above everything else. Not only have we got 3 seats, and the Berlingo was the first compact van to offer that way back, but the amount of storage in here is 113 litres of additional storage. Now a Honda E's boot is 170 litres. So there's almost, you know, there's not far off, it's more than half of a Honda E's boot in this cabin alone. You've got a shelf above here for putting like your iPad or clipboards into. There's another cubby behind this screen. If you don't have the heads-up display, there's a cubby that fits in there. There's a deep cubby down in the centre here. Another one below that. There's a tray there. There's another cubby in there. There's a massive glove box that'll fit goodness knows what else in there. Probably a 2x4. Certainly a laptop will go in there. Talking of laptops, if you need to use your laptop or your iPad while you're out, then what you can do is pull this tab and fold this middle seat down, and then you get this little workbench. I mean, that's phenomenal. And if you need to charge your laptop, there's the option of a 3-pin socket. So there's a 3-pin plug down there. So you can have that, as well as a 12-volt socket for charging too. USB connector there as well. So there's enough connectivity. But there's even more. Oh yes, because if you're not using that there, then what you do is you pull on a little tab there and flip it up, and there's more storage underneath there. I mean, the only thing I can fault this interior on, the only thing I can fault it for is, I think the cup holders are slightly too small. They don't take a big water bottle. That's it. Other than that, this is a phenomenal interior. And a brilliant place. If you've got to spend your day on the road in a van, I can't think of anything else you could want in this interior. It's close to perfection as you'd get for a van. Now the e-Berlingo uses the same 50 kilowatt battery and electrical architecture that the rest of sort of like its platform sharing cars and vans do have, which means a WLTP range of up to 174 miles. Now that obviously will alter whether you're using it around about town, whether you're using it on more open roads, and obviously depending on the weight that you have inside it. Charging port is here, and it'll take charging speeds up to 100 kilowatts, which is pretty good. I mean, you can go from the benchmark 10 to 80% in just over 30 minutes using a CCS charger, which is standard fit. Obviously, if you're charging from your standard 7 kilowatt wall box, then the time from empty to full is just over 7.5 hours. Now, as well as having the same 50 kilowatt hour battery pack as its partner vehicles throughout the PSA Stellantis group, it also has the same motor, which means a front-mounted 134 brake horsepower one. Now, just bear in mind that figure, 134 horsepower, that doesn't really come into effect until you're actually in the power setting and the drive modes. Now, let me quickly talk to you about the drive modes. There are 3 of them. There is power, where it delivers all the power and torque. And then there's normal, which is pretty much what I've been driving around in. And to be honest with you, feels absolutely, I don't want to say adequate, it feels absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with it in the normal mode. And then there's eco, which is obviously the one that dulls everything down and, you know, sort of dulls off the throttle response so you can eke out the very last bit of mileage from it. So as I say, depending obviously what setting you're in, what the van will do is the motor will vary the power and torque available depending on the setting chosen. So it's only in power where you get the full caveat of 134 nags running through the front wheels. But in terms of how the e-Berlingo drives, it is quite frankly brilliant. This is an incredible van to drive. Not because it's exciting or anything like that, because it's not. It's just how nice it is. It's just how easy it is to live with. Much like the car that we drove at the end of last year, there's very little I can fault with this van. Now it has Citroen's, it's been part of Citroen's Advanced Comfort program, which I touched on earlier, which is where they take things that affect the comfort of the occupants. So spring and damper rates, the tune of the chassis, the amount of cushions that you might, the cushioning that you have in the seat as well. So all of those things, and they look at them and they focus on them and they try to make, you know, the very, very best of that. And I think that's wonderful of Citroen to do that. They've not chased sportiness, you know, in their cars or any of the other vehicles. They've gone for what they knew best, which was comfort, and what they were always renowned for, which is comfort. And going down the route of a light commercial means you don't miss out on that. It is beautifully comfortable to drive. It's very refined. I mean, today is a biblically windy day, and I have to say, wind noise wise, well, yeah, you get a little bit from the mirrors on the side here, but that's it. Other than that, it's as quiet as a church in here. It really is. It's lovely. You do get a little bit of bump thump through the suspension when it's unladen, obviously, but not jarringly so. It's as good as any car. That's what I will say. The steering's got a really nice feel to it. It's pleasingly weighted, I'd say. It just feels right to me. It's light enough for you trying to manoeuvre, but out on the open road, it doesn't actually feel artificial. It doesn't feel overly light. The one caveat that I will say, it does come down to the brakes again, and it's just this age-old problem I have with these still anti-screw car brakes. What it is obviously when you first start to use the brake pedal, it uses regeneration rather than the caliper clamping onto the disc. Now that's all well and good, and I understand the need for that, but they really need to just tweak this a bit more, because what happens is you get a dead feel to the pedal, and as you push a bit more, then the brakes activate, the actual caliper activates, and it throws you forward. It's not smooth. The transition between the regen and the actual brakes itself is not smooth, and that's where it doesn't make for nice progress. That's the only thing that I could say, and I'm not going to say ruins it, because it doesn't ruin it, because you can end up driving round it, or you stick it in B mode, which I'll come on to in a second. But it'd just be nicer to have a bit more of a pedal feel, just to feel a bit more like they'd put some effort into it. And let's talk about this B mode, because it's the same in a lot of electric vehicles. There's one stage of brake regeneration. It's done via this button. So you've got the usual little, which I really like, this little kind of toggle switch embedded into the console here, where you get reverse, neutral, and drive, and then two buttons, P for park and then B for the brake regen. So you press the B, and it comes up on the dash, tells you you're in B mode, and basically it means when you lift off, the brake regeneration kind of kicks in. Now it's not one pedal driving, but for certainly round about town, it's quite nice. It's quite nice to have that, and it takes just another element away from you having to actually use that quite wooden brake pedal. So that's quite nice. I do like that. Other than that, the one other thing, and again, it's the same fault that I laid at the door of the Berlingo passenger car. Whilst the storage is superb in here, some of the edges of the plastic is just a bit sharp and rough. The quality's not 100% there. Now, there's an element you could say, well, it's not a BMW or an Audi, but we know that, that there are other manufacturers which have been renowned for giving good value for money. Kia, Hyundai, MG, let's be honest, you know, Chinese built car. You could have turned around and said, well, the plastics in that, you would expect them to be a subpar, and they're not. Citroen need to just up the game a little bit with that. That's the only thing, you know, you're reaching in for your Mars bar and you're scraping your hand across a sharp piece of plastic. You know, other than that, the brakes and the slightly kind of cheap plastic there on the dash, I can't fault this van. I really can't fault it. The driving position is perfect. You've got a perfect view of the instrument binnacle, which is big, bold, clear and concise. You've got nice steering. I've got head-up display in this one. I can easily reach the big 8-inch touch screen over there. Okay, as I say, there are more sophisticated systems, but it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is exactly what I want. I get good visibility. The van's easy to place in the corners. It's quick enough. I've got, you know, just enough, you know, power when I'm into the power mode, but I've got enough feel from all the other controls when it's in the normal mode. I genuinely think this van is an absolute delight. I really do. It's no wonder the Berlingo goes on and continues to win award after award after award, and it deserves it. It deserves the success, because this is a brilliant little van to drive. I just, yeah, I can't fault it other than the brakes and the plastics. That's it. Superb, absolutely superb to drive. Now, prices for the e-Berlingo start from £25,980 plus VAT, and that's after you've taken into account the £2,500 that's available from the UK government for a plug-in van grant, and these prices obviously are correct at time of filming. The topping the range out is the top of the range crew bus, which is £28,380 plus VAT, again after the grant's been taken into account. The van that we've got here is an Enterprise Pro XL, which starts from £27,180 plus VAT, but this particular one has some options fitted to it, so that takes the price up to £29,830 plus VAT. And as I say, please remember these prices are correct at time of filming. Now, in terms of competition for the e-Berlingo, it is of course coming mainly from within its own stable, which is the Peugeot e-Partner and Vauxhall Combo E, not to mention Toyota's ProAce City. But of course, Mercedes vans, which we've obviously featured on the channel now, they've got the small Citroen, or Citroen, how you pronounce it, and that's going to be out in electric form sometime soon. Also, its technical partners, Renault with the new Kangoo E and Nissan with its Townstar electric, they are going to be coming onto market in 2022 and provide reasonably stiff competition for the e-Berlingo that I can see. Ford, however, are yet to announce any type of electric version of its small Transit Connect or Transit Courier. So for now, that's the main competition for the Berlingo. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the Citroen e-Berlingo van. We like the space on offer, the different lengths available, the flexibility of its load bay and carrying capacity. It's really good to drive. There's the option of the crew bus and the options available. We don't like some of the cheaper dashboard plastics. It can get a little bit expensive with options, and the age-old PSA brakes. I like being surprised by vehicles. I like it when you've got something that you think is quite ordinary, maybe even a little bit mundane, and it turns out to be anything but. In fact, it turns out to be little short of brilliant, and that's exactly how I summarise the Citroen e-Berlingo. It is brilliant. When we road tested the passenger version of the Berlingo last year, I summarised that video by sort of saying, well, it may not be a car that you maybe want or desire, but it's probably a car you need. I'd go one stage further than that with this van. I think the Berlingo Commercial is a very desirable small compact van. In fact, I'm not sure what Citroen could have done to make it even better than it already is. It has a decent range, it has a relatively quick charge time, it's beautifully comfortable inside, it's nice to drive, it's got a magnificent amount of carrying capacity and storage in it. You can get it in different body lengths, you can even get it as a crew bus. When you think back to Citroen vans of old, and the success that they had, and then the success that was built on by the original Berlingo back in 2005. It's brilliant that in the face of much newer, much stiffer competition, Citroen can still pull something out of the bag and still make this as desirable a van as those previous generations were, and still sit, I think, at the top of the small compact van class. This is brilliant, and it deserves every success. It's a cracking little workhorse. Thank you for watching AutoEV. As always, please remember to give the video a bit of a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the AutoEV channel for even more content that's coming along soon. And if you can remember also, and press the little bell button, because then you'll be notified of when that next content is live. We're also on all other social media platforms, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Give us a like there too, because every little bit helps, as I say. And if this is the first one you've watched and you want to know a little bit more about AutoEV or see even more of our reviews, because, well, we do cars as well, stick around on the AutoEV YouTube channel and have a little sift through our back catalogue for your viewing pleasure. All that remains for me to say is thank you ever so much for watching again. I'll see you soon. So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe and press the little bell button to receive notification